Okay, so good day guys. So for today's lesson or for this week lesson for our final term, we'll be talking about the chapter 5 of our course, SAM or System Administration Maintenance, which is the models of network and system administration. Now the learning objectives here, you are expected to describe the information models and directory services and illustrate how to use Active Directory domain services, and we'll compare the different network administration model. So when we talk about models of network and system administration, we need to have a better understanding about human computer system requires an ability to see relationships between seemingly distinct parts of a system. Many failures and security violations result from the neglect of interrelationship. So when we neglect or ignore some of those dependencies, then that would result into sometimes failure, errors, worst case scenario, chaotic events on a system. So when we say system interaction, it involves layers of interacting. These are components that intertwine and interdependent on one another. So just as communities are intertwined with their environment, so systems are complex ecological webs of cause and effect. So when we ignore one of those dependencies, as I mentioned, it will lead to a false assumption or a systematic error of management. Then when we say adaptability, an adaptable system is desirable since it can cope up with the unexpected. So it means it can contribute with the predictability change or in change or recovery from failure. So in a human computer system, we must think of both, not only about computers but also for humans, and as per that aspect of organization. So what are the system management roles? The role of management is to secure conditions necessary for a system components to be able to carry out their function. It is not direct and monitor control every detail of a system. But again, you need to have uh, to secure the conditions. Again, when we say system components, this involve the security of the humans, security of the components or computers, or devices that involves even the infrastructure. So this principle applies both to the machines in a network and to the organization of people using them and maintaining them. As I mentioned earlier, we always deal with humans now when we're talking about network system or computer system, because they are the user. Again, they are one of the threat, no, great threat for our in our computer network or computer system. In a system is fundamental. If a system is fundamentally flawed, no amount of management will make it work. No. First, we design a system that functions. Then we discuss the management of its attributes. Then this has several themes. First, the resource management, which are the consumables and reusables. And then scheduling, the time management, queues, and then lastly, strategy. So this chapter, we consider the issues surrounding the functioning systems and their management. That includes the structuring of organizational information in directories, the development of services for managing structural information, the construction of basic computing and management infrastructure, the scalability of management models, and handling interoperability between the parts of a system. And lastly, the division of resources between parts of the system. So let's first talk about the information models and directory services. One way of binding together an organization is through structured information model, a database of its personnel, assets, and services. So what do we mean about that? When we say database, it means a repository, directory, inventory of personnel, who are the users, what are their roles, even the assets and services. What are the things or what are the services that we provide to those personnel? We already talked about that on our previous chapter during midterms, that we don't allow all the users on a network to access all the files or all the services in a network, because that's not necessary. We just give them what they need, or what are the services that they need. The directory service, a collection of open systems that cooperate to hold a logical database of information about a set of objects in the real world. So a directory service is a generalized name for service. Then the directory services should not be confused with directories in file systems. Okay, though they have many structural similarities. Directories are organized in structured fashion, often hierarchically tree structure, employing an object-oriented model. Then directory services employ a common schema for what can and must be stored about particular object, so as to promote interoperability. Then a fine-grained access control is provided for information allowing access per record. So nasabi ko yan kanina, no, that we need to have an access control. So we control the users, or what are the things that they can access, no? Even the action, no? Let's say they can only read a specific file, no? Delete or edit, save or create on that folder or directory. And then access is optimized for lookup, not for transactional update of information. So a directory is not a read-write database in the normal sense, but rather a database used for read-only transactions. It is maintained and updated by a separate administrative process rather than by regular usage. So what is the Novell Directory Service, or the NDS? So the Novell Netware is sometimes referred to as a network operating system by PC administrators because it was the add-on software that was needed to complete the aging MS-DOS. That was before, no? And noong time pa ni MS-DOS, before the GUI operating systems like Windows 6, Windows 7, Windows XP, no? Ako na I've tried to use Windows 98, pero saglit lang yun during high school. Nasa school namin noon. The Novell Netware was originally a centralized sharing service that allowed a regiment of PCs to connect to a common disk and common printer, thus allowing expensive hardware to be shared amongst desktop PCs. Because during that time, at early years, nung nag-start mag-boom yung industry ng computer, when they made it available to the public, yung mga devices or hardware are 1:1. So when you need to buy a printer, hindi mo siya pwedeng i-share sa network. So that was the time na kinailangan, no, yung add-on na to, which is the Novell Directory Service, in which we are allowed to share the common disk. No, pwede ka na mag-share ng disk sa network, or even the other devices such as printer. No, kaya nga ngayon pwede kang mag-print kahit saan for as long as the printer is also connected to the network. Then Active Directory domain, early versions of Windows were limited by a flat host infrastructure model that made it difficult to organize and administer Windows hosts. When we say Windows hosts, these are computers, no, probably printer, switch, router. So you talk about that already during your Cisco days, no. The Active Directory is the directory service introduced with and integrated into Windows 2000. No, on our course, we'll be using Windows 2008 R2. So system infrastructure organization, as we have already mentioned, a network is community of cooperating and competing components. A system administrator has to choose the components and assign them their roles on the basis of the job which is intended for the computer system. So there are two aspects to consider, the machine aspect and again, the human aspect. No? So napapansin nyo, ikot-ikot yung discussion natin about machine and humans because they are again related. No, there's a interrelationship between the two aspects. So again, when you say machine, they are the machinery, no, computing machinery such as computers, servers, no, routers. And then the human aspect is about the way people are deployed to build and maintain the infrastructure. So it means when you say build, kasama pa rin yung mga network engineer, computer engineers, because they are the one who build those infrastructure or system. No, not only the users, not only the people who maintain them. So kasama lahat yan. So teamwork and communication, the process of communication is essential in any information system. So the system administration is no different. So we see essential bidirectional communications taking place in a variety of forms. So there are communication between computer programs and their data. So, siyempre, kailangan. For example, I think you are familiar with this one. No, when you play games, that's a computer programs, and then there's a new patch, or new update. Do you think you can play the game? So basically, not. You need that data to be updated, not to be patched on your system. So there's a communication or teamwork between those two, the device and computer. Siyempre, no? Like not only computers but even other devices such as the router, switch, the printer, scanner, yung mga external devices natin. And syempre, we have to collaborate with humans, in teams, no? Not only humans to computer or human to computer relationship, but even humans to humans. So syempre, sabi nga ng previous discussion natin, what one user do with the multi-user computer or operating system will affect the other user, no? So dapat there is a collaboration. And then between clients and servers, computer users and computer systems, policy decision makers. Ito yung mga probably consultants and the higher ups, no, yung mga boss na natin, because they are the ones who create policies, or guidelines or rules, in on our computer or on our network. And then policy enforcers, ito yung mga nag-i-implement, or nag-i-enforce ng ating policy that was made by our decision makers. And then between computers and environment, ayan, kagaya ng spilled coffee, yung mga tubig, that's why you're not allowed to drink or eat inside the laboratory. Kasama yon, no? Yung environment, we need to consider that. Siyempre, hindi mo naman ilalagay yung computer mo near na the one na sa bintana na umuulan, pwedeng mabasa, no? Or sabi nga natin, sa isa, you need to have a good location for your servers, no? Hindi dapat flooded. Kung flooded man yung area, it's unavoidable. So you can place your servers on a higher floor ng building if possible. Then these communications are constantly being intruded upon by environmental noise. So may mga errors in communication, that can occur in two ways. Information is distorted, inserted, or omitted by faulty communication or by external interference. Pag sinabi natin faulty communication, probably yung kable mo pala sira na, hindi mo pa tinitingnan na nakagat na ng daga. So that could be happen on your on an organization, no? Sa laki ng building, hindi mo na alam, may damage na pala yung cable. That leads to a faulty communication. So nadi-distort yung information na sinesend natin. Or by external interference, sabi nga natin, yung pag maraming tao, that can affect the network, no? What else? Marami, no? That even the external noise, yung vibration, ayan, yung ingay lang, no? Especially if you're just connected to the Wi-Fi, that can affect your that can distort, the information. And then the information is interpreted incorrectly, yung mga symbols are incorrectly identified due to imprecision or external interference. Now, homogeneity keeping to a single type of hardware and operating system, for example, PCs with NT against the possible advantages of choosing the absolute best hardware for the job, Ito yung nakita natin last time na uniformity, So madaling i-maintain. But again, there are always pros and cons. So product manufacturer or vendors always want to sell a solution based on their own products. Just like Windows, makita nyo, kaya nga laging may argument, or pagtatalo, which is better, Windows or Linux. Well, it depends, dun sa user. But again, nasanay yung mga Pilipino kasi, that we use, this software Windows, which is basically proprietary. It means we need to purchase the license, to use it. Again, nasa Pilipinas tayo. Kung titingnan natin, siguro small amount or percentage of Filipinos are using the license operating system. We're fond with or we love to use yung mga crack software. Good thing, TSU provide us the genuine, or legit na Office, which is Office 365, which is bound na nakabind, sa ating TSU account or sa portal. Then system homogeneity or uniformity means that all hosts appear to be essentially the same. So this makes hosts predictable and manageable for administrators. Yan, iba't pinag-usapan natin and pinakita ko kung paano maandar din yung cloning. And then that's possible with homogeneity or uniformity ng isang system. So load balancing in the deployment of machinery, there are two opposing philosophies. One machine, one job, and the consolidated approach. In the first case, we buy a new host for each new task on the network. For instance, there's a mail server and a print server and a disk server and so on. So kailangan mo ng server for the printer just for that job, for printing, for mail, for mailing. Pero ngayon, hindi na, kahit walang ganyan, mayroon na no? So this approach was originally used in PC network running DOS, because each host was only capable of running one program at a time. Unlike nowadays, multitasking na yung mga computer natin. They are capable in running multiple tasks. So mobile and ad hoc networks, an ad hoc networks is defined to be a network collection of mobile objects, each of which has the possibility to transmit information. Ito yung ginagawa dati ng mga gustong mag-network, using their laptop na wala silang dalang cable, they can set up their laptop as their own ad hoc network. So the nodes, which include humans and devices, are free to move randomly, thus the network topology may change rapidly and unpredictably. So yun yung mga nangyayari nowadays. Clearly, an ad hoc networks are important in a mobile computing environment, where hosts are partially or intermittently connected to other hosts, but they are also important in describing the high-level association between parts of the system. Ayan. Yung ad hoc na sinasabi ko that you can configure on your laptop, walang ganyang walang ganyang control, it's like you're making your laptop as a hotspot. Then pwede na mag-connect yung mga computers doon. So ganyan yung nangyayari. So peer-to-peer services, another phenomenon that has received attention in recent years is the idea of peered network. Again, sabi ko nga, yung computer na mayroong cafe management, yung nakokontrol lang yung time, nakokontrol, nalalak lang yung window screen nyo, that's not an example of client server. Still, that type of network is peer-to-peer yung services, because hindi mo naman kailangan yung server para umandar yung computer mo. For example, removing that software na naka-install sa'yo, it means you can still use your computer anytime. Yun yung definition ng peer-to-peer. Yung client server, sabi ko nga, you are dependent with the server. You cannot use your computer unless nandyan sa server, umaandar. Okay? So next, we have the next one, network administration models. The management of cluster of system leads to the concept of logistic networks. Here, it is not the physical connectivity that is central to the deployment, but rather the associative relationship and channels of communications. Ayan. Ito, meron tayong star model. I guess tinuro na to during your Cisco or even nung high school kayo, mga STEM, So the traditional idealized model of host configuration is based on the idea of remote management, yung SNMP. Here, one has a central manager who decides and implements policy from single location, and all the network and hosts are considered to be completely reliable. Ayun yung tinatawag nating controller, yun nasa gitna. Then we have here the model 1 and 2 for the star model in intermittently connected environment. The previous model was idealization and was mainly of interest for its simplicity. So realistic centralized management must take into account the unreliability of the environment nung figure kanina. So in an environment with partially reliable links, a remote communication model bears the risk of not reaching every host. So yun yung problem lang natin. If hosts hear policy, they must accept and comply. If not, syempre hindi sila they will fall behind on the schedule of configuration. So for example, kayo lang din when you install a software. Now, every time you install software, meron mo ng policy, there's ito yung tinatawag. Sometimes we call it the privacy statement or the terms of use o yung tinatawag nating end users license agreement. So that's their policy. If you not agreed with that, then again, you cannot install or proceed to the installation. So mesh topology, ito mas reliable, but the problem is, again, there's a pros and cons. Yung cons naman nito is medyo expensive. As you can see, there's a redundant link or connectivity between hosts. So syempre, when you do that, you need to again, add more budget to the implementation. Yun yung problem sa mesh. And in this model, hosts can choose not to receive policy from a central authority. Again, if it conflicts with local interests, hosts can make their own policy. Ayan. So, pwede. Yan yung inintroduce natin dun sa mesh network or topology. So, mesh with partial autonomy and hierarchical collision, an embellishment of Model 4 is to allow local groups of hosts to form policy. So, again, aside from the policy made by the controller or by the server or central authority, then the host has the authority, or they are allowed to form their own policy coalition to serve to their advantage. Sabi ko nga, baka per department yan. Syempre, iba yung policy ng isang department to the other. Such group of hosts might belong to one department. Ayan. So, dapat iba-iba yung policy. So, when you do that, ganito yung gagawin natin, with partially autonomy and inter-peer policy exchange. So, syempre, yung policy ng isa, minsan it's not important, or some of their policy are not affected or not required or essential doon sa isang department. That's why we use this model, yung model number 6 natin. The network management technologies, the ability to read information about the performance of network hardware via the network itself, is an attractive idea. Again, suppose we could look at the router on the second floor of a building half a mile away and immediately see the load statistics or the number of rejected packets it has seen, or perhaps the status of all printers on a subnet. Yan, may mga ganyan na, makikita mo na kung ilan yung page na napiprint sa network, sino nagprint. Yan, gagawin din natin yun. Pero again, it's not a requirement. Kasi nga, not all of us have printer. Yung iba nga, walang computer, tapos printer pa, kaya i-required natin, di ba? But again, I will demonstrate on how to use that one. I think I also have a video of that one, na ginawa or na-configure ko yung printer using VirtualBox. And then using the Windows 2008 R2, naka-install yung printer sa server, yung client walang printer, but because it was shared, and tapos gamit pa VirtualBox, so nakapag-print ako ng file. So SNMP was spawned in 1987 as a simple gateway monitoring protocol, but was quickly extended and became a standard. Ayan, siya yung naging standard for network monitoring. And it was designed to be small and simple enough to be able to run on even minor pieces of network technology like bridges and printers. Ayan. Ay, pansinin niyo, pati router nyo, Pag sinabing bridges, this could be a router, kaya sa Cisco, lagi naririnig yung isang protocol na yan. So, the model of configuration management is particularly suited to non-interactive devices like printers and static network infrastructure. So, the notify functionality is implemented by traps or events that can be configured dun sa SNMP agent natin. Each event type is defined by the SNMP software of the device being managed. Kagaya ng Cisco routers have general traps such as cold start, link down, link up. Ayan, na namomonitor kung kailan na. Kaya nga napansin nyo, di ba, on your Cisco, dun sa mga packet tracer activity nyo before, when you type no shot, merong message na nag-up yung link. So that's one of the traps. Ilan lang naman to mga to. Even reload, link down kapag nag-no shot, o kaya natanggal yung network cable nasa pagkakasaksak or may faulty network cable. So those traps are included sa mga routers natin or devices with SNMP agent. So principles of stable infrastructure. The principles on which we would like to build an infrastructure are straightforward and build upon the idea of predictability under load. So, ito yung mga kailangan natin consider. Again and again, as much as possible, when you're land a job as a network administrator, or the MIS, as one of the MIS or mahawak na network, you always need to consider scalability. no? Hindi kasi natin masabi kung kailan lalago, no, or lalaki yung network. So to avoid, no, scrapping your previous design, your previous implementation. So dapat nung una pa lang when you plan the network, dapat you need to consider scalability. No, yung mga subnet, kino-consider mo na. Yes, ngayon, ginamit mo is yung prefix na /24, which is can accommodate 254 hosts. What if in the future, after a year, nag-expand yung network? Worst case scenario, na sa ibang geographical location pa yung isang network. And then your boss wants you to connect or interconnect the two branches. Yung network mo, yung initial plan mo is not scalable. It cannot extend that kind of network or support that kind of network. Ano mangyayari doon sa previous implementation mo? So sayang lang, 'di ba? Scrap mo, to throw away mo yung mga dineploy mo, no? Not only materials, even hardware, or sometimes pati yung configuration na ginawa. And then reliability. Any mode of system infrastructure must be reliable as one of its chief goals. Ayan, downtime, no? Minsan na-measure natin, no? Pero kagaya nun, pag hindi reliable yung network, imagine your you are Lazada, no? Tapos nag-down yung server mo, ilan yung mawawala sa'yo? 'Di ba? Just like what happened last time sa Facebook, nag-down siya. Ang daming nagreklamo, ang daming perang nawala. I think that's overnight or almost 24 hours na yung mga nagla-live selling, hindi makapag-live, no? Even the other businesses that uses Facebook for their transaction, no? They cost them real money. No? So, same thing with your company, especially kung dependency sa cloud-based services. So, dapat reliable yung network mo. So, redundancy, dito papasok, no? Example, like sabi ko nga, TSU has multiple ISP. Pag nag-down yung isa, automatic mag-on naman yung isang backup. So, you already studied that on your net or Cisco 2, no? When we say the redundant links or networks. Ayan. Homogeneity and uniformity 2, a model in which all hosts are basically similar. Ayan, pinag-usapan na natin. Reproducibility, avoid improvising system modification on the fly, which are not reproducible. No? It is easy to forget what was done, and this will make the functioning of the system difficult to understand. So, dapat hindi ganun. O yung reproducibility, dapat hindi tayo basta-basta gumagawa ng mga ganun. Revision control. Ayan. One approach to configuration of hosts is to have a standard of set of files na may mga file base which can be simply copied into place. For example, capstone nyo na lang, no? Meron kayong document, docu1. Nung in-update nyo, sinave nyo lang, no? Na overwrite yung previous file. Then, you realize, no, nung after several checking, ay, kailangan ko pala yung nabura ko last time. So, what will happen? Nawala yung original file mo. So, dapat there's a revision control. Pwede ka na mag-copy tapos ipalitan mo yung version 1, version 2. Like, just like on your on your games. No? Kaya nga merong version. Do you think nung in-update nyo yung isa, no, binura nung mismong developer yung previous version? No. They just give you the new version, and then if worse comes to worse, kagaya nga ng mga games na nilalaro natin, we have this what we call rollback. No? Nawawala yung mga nangyari, and then i-roll back yung stable version, no, or update. So just something like that. This one is used to fix or track bugs or fixes, yung mga bugs natin. Then software synchronization, this technique can be used to maintain a level of uniformity in the software used around the network. So push models and pull models, revision control does not address the issue of uniformity unless contents of the files a file base can be distributed to many different hosts. Ito, I think, yung iba, no, sa industry, naririnig na natin. Nagpo-push, nagpo-pull. Pag push, nag-update ka. Pag nagpo-pull, kinukuha mo yung bagong version, which was shared to you by other users. So, push, ayan, by the Radish program, pushing files from a central location to a number of hosts is a way of forcing a file to be written into a group of hosts. Yung pull naman, meron tayong represented by CF Engine and rsync, with a pull model which host decides to collect files from a central repository. Kaya nga, kukunin, itutulak. No? So, ganun yun. So, system maintenance models. So, model of system maintenance have evolved by distilling locally acquired experience from many sites. In latter years, attempts have been made to build software system which apply certain principles to the problem of management. So, meron tayong Unix administrators and Windows administrators. Ayan. So, again, there are pros and cons about these two. No, kung gusto nyong mag-land ng job ng mabilis, no, you need to learn. Pumapasok din dito yung sa economics, yung supply and demand. No? Kulang yung supply sa mga Unix or Linux users. No? Pero yung demand, malaki. No? Kasi nga, hindi majority or hindi alas marunong mag-Linux or Unix-like software. So, you need to follow check to have a model checklist. What technologies are supported by the model? Ayan, kailangan yung alamin yun. What human practices are supported by the model? No? Will the model survive a reinstall or upgrade of the major hardware at our site? Ayan, no? Huwag kayo basta-basta mag-reinstall or mag-upgrade. You need to, again, analyze muna. No? Conduct an evaluation and monitor your site or your model. And then, will the model survive reinstallation of major software? So, not only for the hardware, but even for the software. Then, will the network and its productivity survive the loss of any component? Sometimes we do that. No? May component na hindi naman pala kailangan, then we can remove it. But again, the question is, magsasuffer ba yung productivity ng network? No? So, you need to, again, plan. Then, do any of the solution or choices compromise security or open any backdoors? And what is more important, user freedom or system well-being, convenience or security? Kapag sabi natin masyadong secure, masyado nating rini-restrict yung user, again, pwede silang magreklamo na yung freedom nila. But again, if it is the policy of the company, wala silang pwedeng ireklamo doon. That's why nga, sabi natin, di ba, ang pinaka-basic fundamentals ng isang organization is policy. Then, do users understand their responsibilities with regard to the network? And do they need to be educated as part of the model? So, minsan kailangan ng training, o kaya seminar or awareness. And then, have we observed all moral and technical responsibilities with respect to the larger network? Is the systems easy to understand for user? Ayan, baka naman nagpalit ka ng model o yung system mo, tapos ang hirap naman gamitin. Diba? It's not user-friendly. Then, does the system function predictability and fail predictably? So, if it fails one of these tests, one could easily find oneself starting again in a year or so. So, ayan, yung mga checklist natin. So, with that, no, I hope you've learned something from the topic. So, if you do have questions, you can just message me dun sa Teams natin. No? So, have a nice day, and again, always keep safe. No? Thank you.